Welcome. This week on The Cyclists, we'll meet with Sam Slatter, founding member of the Inner Acre, and hear about the support network they've created through their unique approach to a cycling club. We'll also get tips from our usual experts on bike maintenance and bike handling.
Hi there, we're here today with Sam from the Inner Acre in rainy Hertfordshire. To keep him busy while we speak to him, Sam's going to make the coffee. Go on then, Sam. Get it on.
Sam, wax, shave, Veet or jungle?
Veet. I spent a lot of time in the jungle, but yeah, no. But I normally shave it first and then Veet it, so am I going to use two?
Sounds like it happened.
Yeah.
My only experience of that is when someone did it on someone's head. It's on a school trip.
On someone's head?
Yeah, it didn't go down that well.
So next question, when you're out riding, gel, cake or banana?
Gel. Yeah, I don't do very well with solid foods. Always go for a gel, and it's easy. Just find it easier apart from the sticky pocket. That's the big issue. Is when you put it back in.
And then it goes solid and cracky, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, Sam. Next question is football or rugby?
Well, I'm going to say it's an easy one to say football.
Yeah.
Yeah, football for me.
You have a team?
I do have a team, yeah. I'm a Millwall fan.
Next question, Sam, is what do we feel about gravel riding? The latest craze, is it?
Well, there's obviously something to it, just to escape from the roads and get out and do that. So yeah, definitely cool.
Next question is, we're while out on a ride, cafe stop, pub stop, or no stop at all?
Oh, I feel really bad. I'm going to end up doing a hybrid one again, but if I can, cafe stop and finish with a pub stop.
Yeah,
but every ride, at least a stop in there.
Tea or coffee?
Or coffee for me.
What do we do on any kind of little rises? Do we wait to the top, or do we just crack on and see you later?
Way to the top, because I think I don't want anyone cracking on if I was waiting.
Yeah.
That's always that always way at the top. Even like, I don't know, the way I ride, definitely, I'd much prefer it if people wait.
Matching kit or don't give up?
Yeah, I've got matching kit, but that's a personal choice. But if somebody else turned up without matching kit, I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's not a problem at all.
You've seen Sam's bike, haven't you? There's not a lot that matches that.
How's the coffee getting on?
Entry into it. So, Sam, so what was your...
Got it on hot as well.
There's nothing coming in then.
Yeah, there's definitely water in it.
Sam, how did cycling first get under your skin?
I tore my ACL playing football.
Yep.
So I just started using my dad had a bike, just had a leftover bike in the house that I started just riding because I couldn't do any form of sort of hard exercise. Just started riding, and I sort of, all right, coffee's starting to bubble, so we're looking good. And I still wanted to be competitive because I was playing competitive football.
Yeah.
So that was how it first got under my skin. But if I'm honest, it was just continuously riding when I really started to feel like, cycling's got so many more elements to it than just being competitive. And since then, I use it as just one way to travel, but more to keep doing adventures and sort of feel young again, if I'm honest.
Some people it seems to be the tech, other people it's just getting on over their mates, or the allure of racing and getting fitter. But
yeah, well, so I guess all of those sort of mesh into one for me at times. Like, I am interested in when there's a new bit of technology comes out, but what it really boils down to is what's my next route going to be, or where am I going to go and explore next, or where's going to...
So you're sat at your desk in the week and you're sort of dreaming of the weekend, and
it's about what's the new lane I'm going to go find, or what's the new hilltop I can go to, or who's around who would fancy going up.
You don't get caught up on what's the latest bike, do you? Look at yours.
No, not at all. No. As much as I'd love, don't get me wrong, I'd love a new one to go and ride on, but
made mine's a 10-year-old beast.
As long as it's still ticking along, it allows me to go out and do a long enough ride. Yeah, absolutely no worries.
Brilliant.
And now it's got under your skin. What is cycling to you now? What does it represent when you think of it as an activity and your relationship to it?
So, like, my relationship with cycling is more around the sort of helped me as much as it was a form of exercise, but just personally from having some of my own like sort of mental health issues, I sort of use cycling as a way not only to escape, but it actually helped me in sort of coming out and talking about things, because for a lot of my youth I never really spoke about sort of mental health issues I had, and cycling really sort of helped me do that to start with. So it means like the bike is more of sort of a metaphor now than anything. It's just there's so much more just going out on a ride now for me than what it used to be.
Hi, I'm Lee from AheadSet Bikes, and today's top tip are headset adjustment and ensuring that your headset is safe. This is a threadless or a headset. A threaded headset is a completely different thing. We'll perhaps cover that another time. The 3 bolts are here, 1, 2, and these are on the back either on the back of the handlebar stem, this part, and this 3rd bolt sits at the top. This is a preload cap, and it's designed to pull everything together and give you tension and hold your headset bearings in. These are clamping bolts, and you'll note on the side, the Newton meters are on the side generally, so you do need to look for that and use a torque wrench. For example, something like this, or I'd really recommend for home use, preset torque wrenches such as this. These come with, this is a 5 Newton meter torque wrench, and you can't over tighten this because it won't go any tighter. But on many handlebar stems there is a figure written there, say 5, 6, 7, 8 perhaps, NM generally, which is Newton meters, and that's a measurement of torque force for you to tighten up. These have a measurement of torque force, this does not. This is literally just a preload cap. These are tight. Once they're tight, this isn't actually doing anything. If I undo this, the bicycle will work perfectly. You don't need to be tightening this up unless you've undone these. Okay, so what we see often in the shop is that when people have a loose headset, they graunch this up and they keep going tighter and tighter and tighter. What you're then doing is dragging out the anchor, potentially damaging your fork, potentially putting yourself at risk. So this is the clamp, this is the preload adjustment for your bearings.
So you used to work in a cabin?
I did, yeah.
So this should be pretty special.
This hasn't quite got the machine, but this is still better though, because it's in the outdoors.
Look at that.
Oh, nice
colour.
Oh, cheers, chaps.
Cheers. Yeah.
So Sam, we know you through basically hanging out in the same coffee shop, which is fantastic. But you have been part of forming something called the Inner Acre, which is kind of what we wanted to chat to you about today.
Yeah. So the Inner Acre comes from quite like a joke between friends initially, the name of it, and we all are now basically in the same sort of area, same sort of acre of land. So we basically just called it the Inner Acre, but we're all friends who cycle, and that's initially where it came from. So that's where the name derives from itself, but the idea behind it was around some friends who all cycled, all sort of struggled with cycling clubs when we first joined it. We love cycling, and I think that with any sport, the best way to get into it is to join a club or to, you got to branch out, haven't you? I think even though you could do cycling on your own for as long as possible, but we were all like, oh, I need to branch out and do some bigger rides because you need other people there to do it. Yeah, and then we sort of didn't get on with any of the cycling clubs we joined, so we weren't particularly close friends at school, because that's where we all met initially. And then we sort of decided, okay, why don't we book a cycling holiday to meet up, because we all sort of got in contact again. So we went to the Peak District and we had an absolute ball, and that was probably about 3 or 4 years ago now. And then very recently we went to Swansea and we went to the Brecon Beacons. And I personally think, and a lot of the boys said it as well, is like the best holiday we've had in terms of just a holiday, even though it was cycling. We were all like, well, that was brilliant.
In terms of restful or camaraderie, or just a break from the norm at home? Or?
Just because it was around cycling. So the Inner Acre isn't made up of people who have been keen cyclists since we were young. It was made up of people who had another sport of football, rugby, or mainly football and rugby, but people sort of cycled, or their dads and mums were into cycling. And then we sort of got back and we were like, oh, let's start this Inner Acre. We all live around the same area and we can sort of have more of a focus towards going out together and riding. You can just come and join for a ride or whatever, and everyone's there to go out, and there's no like, oh, you have to do it in this way, you have to do it in that way. I suppose there is, you need the bike to come and do it, obviously, that's precedent, but...
so it's a looser format than your traditional cycling club.
Yeah, 100%.
Chilled out vibe.
Yeah, and it's just... And we all have the same mindset of what cycling means to us, is the fact that you can go out and you can see something every single day that's 20 miles away and sort of take a moment to yourself and sort of chill out. And that's what the Inner Acre is. It's like when we went to Swansea, we got to the top of what's called the Black Mountain, and we were all just there and everyone sort of said it, like, this is, how good's this? And we were all like, yeah, this is so good, like, this is great. Like, all the pain of it was of getting up, but just being at that top with your mates at that time, everyone was like, oh yeah, this is beautiful. Like,
you earned a special moment.
Yeah, but it was more like, why can't we do, like, why doesn't other people know about this? And
they're all on the Club 1830s holiday.
Yeah.
Racing between the traffic lights and doing
But the Inner Acre sort of just gave us, I don't know, a bit more like determination to do more trips and keep things going. And everyone can still go and do their own rides if they want to ride hard and if they want to race. Or like, if I compare myself personally, I'd just like to, I could go on a long ride on my own and just sort of go to a new cafe and then get home. But there's that element for everyone, really.
Hi, I'm Ian from Cyclists Mountain Biking, and today's top tip is how to get going. So making sure you're in the right gear, everything's set so you can pull away nice and easy and get yourself going without having to worry too much about what's going on. We're looking at that for a mountain bike, a road bike, a gravel bike. Pretty much starting is always the same, but just making sure we get that dialed and get everything set, ready to go. So here we've got Kim on a gravel bike. Gear selection's really key. We don't want to be in too hard a gear or too easy a gear. When we ride away, we want to pull away without having to work too hard. Making sure that when we start, the pedal's in the right position, so we're not finding ourselves having to really struggle to get that pedal ready to go. If we're running clip-in pedals, we want to be able to clip in nice and easy, and you'll find the more you use those pedals, the easier it gets to do. So practice makes perfect on that front. And then making sure when you go, your head's up, looking down the track, but don't forget to have a quick look over your shoulder just to make sure no one's coming. Obviously off-road, there could be other riders, but on the road, there could be vehicles. Just making sure that nothing's going to come along and run you over, so you're ready to go. And then keep your head up, looking as far down the trail as you can, looking for that nearest high point to you in elevation, as far down the trail as you can see it, and then getting going, making sure that you just drive the bike away nice and smoothly, and then you can go from there.
So do you feel by spending, when you're on the bike, do you feel those friendships develop differently and you catch up in a different way than you might if you were sat in a pub?
Yeah, 100%.
I think we've often commented on this, and like, if you're on a climb with mates, you converse in a different way and maybe with greater confidence than you might if there was a pub for a Rado. I've certainly noticed when I was putting together the wedding guest list and my guest list for the stag do, it was going through my obvious load, mate, and then I realised actually, who knows my news at the moment, who I converse with the most, who have I had the deeper experiences with over the last 5 years, and the guys I'd actually climbed up hills with and chatted on the way up, or sat on plains to Whistler or the Alps to go mountain biking with and ski lifts while we're out there doing the riding. They're the guys you just have those peaceful moments with, and weirdly those breaks where there's just no pressure to be anywhere, think for anybody else, nobody's got a phone in their hand.
Yeah, that's so true actually.
And then cycling created that interesting forum to chat, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. No, that's actually a really nice way of putting it, because you don't have your phone, you have very little distraction apart from having to do a pedal stroke and just keeping up, I guess, at times, but everyone's still there. But yeah, no, that is exactly. Whereas conversations flow much easier on a bike because you're outdoors, and I don't know, there's something about, you're still doing your own thing as you're pedaling, but you're also having a conversation and you're sort of in your own head. And it's just easier to speak to a friend, and I've formed relationships with people who, I wouldn't say we'd be particularly sociable outside of the bike, if that makes sense. Like, we just slightly different, like somebody might be slightly more introverted and I might be slightly more extroverted. However, on the bike, we couldn't be more similar as a personality, because we can just talk and talk for about anything, not just the bike. But in a pub, that conversation's sort of totally mechanical. Yeah. Like it follows a script where there's no script on a bike. Like your first instance in a pub is how's work, how's this, how's that. A bike is, oh, you just missed that pothole, you had a bit of chat, and then something else sort of comes out of that.
And you've all got that shared experience on that given day, isn't it? Like, A, getting to the start of the ride together on time, but B, you're all going A to B, which is the most simple task on the planet, but it's all got you moving in the same direction as a group. And
that is what the Inner Acre is. It's about being able to, because I think us three, we all get it about what that is, that sort of in how cycling can feel inside, and how it sort of, it is really hard to describe in words, but Inner Acre is pretty much getting people to come and do a long ride, or get from A to B, or like, okay, look, we're going to go do that climb, but we'll do it all together, and then we're going to go to this pub after. And that sort of glow that cycling gives you when you stop at a cafe, or when you stop at a pub, or at the end of the day, and you're like, oh, what a great day.
Lovely.
Like, yeah, and personally, I don't get that as much from going to the pub or some other experiences.
No, I mean, there's something about riding, isn't there? And I think lockdown and all that we've all just been through as a planet together has really brought that into focus, is the importance of going and doing, even if you're on your own.
Yeah.
I find that on the days where the work was getting too much, or trying to all be locked in the same house together got too much, if I could get that 45 minutes out on the bike, or meet him at a very safe distance and go for a ride and chat, it was just very grounding. As you say, the glow is a wonderful way to put it. You came back feeling like a different person and able to take on the challenges, do better work, do better at home, and it's got a powerful tool, isn't it, as you guys seem to have found.
Yeah, and I think the more I think about it now as we talk is trying to give everyone that experience and trying to explain, because cycling isn't just about pushing pedals and making them go round, and there's something that's quite indescribable about cycling that can't really be put into words. You just need to do it, experience it, and it's very easy to get hooked from there. Yeah, so like I was saying, the Inner Acre did just start off as a group of friends, well, sort of a merge of people who were into cycling. Me and Ali were just on a ride together, and I basically spoke to him, so, oh, did you see that new thing that Rafa put out about writing meaningful miles and sort of how riding can help you with your mental health? And he was like, oh yeah, I saw that, but he was like, why would you write into that? And I was like, and sort of in that moment I told him stuff that I'd never told my parents. I've not even told my younger brother, who's friends with Ali, so I opened up to Ali before even the closest people to me. So I basically said, well, I've lived with anxiety pretty much my whole life, which led to 6 months of feeling suicidal and led to periods of depression, but mostly I'd lived with this anxiety my whole life. And so Ali didn't realise, and this is sort of where the Inner Acre then moved on. And then he basically said that he follows someone called Nick, who runs basically a cycling blog which about mental health, so called Ascend, like the gilet that I'm wearing here. And Ali was like, well, why don't you write into him about it? Why don't you write into Alex? Ali, I think Ali was quite shocked. He didn't quite know what to say. No. And I basically wrote about how I'd lived with this anxiety, how I'd been suicidal for so long, and then how the bike helped me with this, and how in the worst part of it, the only really escape I ever had was to go out on a bike ride. And no one knew. I was riding on my own, which I wanted to do. I didn't choose to go with anyone. But the only thing that kept me sort of, I suppose, alive in some extent was going on bike rides and stuff like that. And then I wrote into Nick, and I wrote into Ascend, and Simon actually helped us with the pictures for that, so thank you. And then it got published, and we sort of, as we done that, we spoke about the Inner Acre through the means of me typing into this blog called Ascend. And now the Inner Acre's just taken on a new dynamic on top of trying to advocate cycling for how we see it, in the fact that we are all people who are open to talk about mental health. I'm the one who's spoken out about my own sort of troubles that I've had in the past.
That really unlocked something, didn't it? Because there was an outpouring of messages and support for you that I noticed. Yeah,
which pretty much stemmed from which made me realise, well, I haven't ever, well, also people probably like, why has Sam never said anything? But I just physically couldn't bring myself to, until I started cycling, and the Inner Acre just allowed for me to do that. So since then, the Inner Acre has just become somewhere where People are aware that it was me who spoke about it, but everyone who's involved in the Inner Acre and rides would be someone who's open to talk if somebody else was having any issues. And I found it, for me personally, I could never talk to someone in a pub or sat next to them, or I just couldn't open up. It was too hard for me.
So the Inner Acre has become this sort of almost, it's acknowledged if you're on one of the club rides, you've joined a safe space where you could almost encourage or just be ready to listen.
Yeah, and if you were on a ride with any of us and wanted to speak about it, it's not like we're listeners as well. We're a group of people who will listen, even if someone in the group isn't isn't currently experiencing any, I don't want to say issues, but sort of along those lines. It's just somewhere where friends of friends can come and join, and if they're having a hard time, people will listen. But it doesn't mean you have to talk. That's not what we are. We are still around cycling, but we're a group of men, actually, quite importantly, who will listen to other men or women who wanted to come and speak about it.
Brilliant.
I just think the more people who are open to even listening to someone who's going through any mental health trauma or anything like that, the more people who will listen, the better the planet will be. And that's what the Inner Acre now also represents, as well as representing a great place to talk about cycling and getting to the top of a climb and having that glow that cycling
Something about that joint purpose, isn't it? Be it a climb or an A to B, that you're all on that thing together, and then suddenly the conversation seems to just fall in place behind that, regardless of how well you know that guy. I've caught myself a few times going, why have I just told this bloke that? I just don't even know him.
And I can't express how many times, and this is on a personal, how many times I've done that after having a drink. I would have had like 3 or 4 pints and then said something to someone and then felt really anxious about it the next day, whereas when I'm on a bike it's just so much easier to talk in that way. And if we could, and the small amount of people that we reach, because we obviously put a few pictures on Instagram or we go out on rides, and people even just talking to their friends, so like if Pete was like, oh, I went on a ride with the Inner Acre boys this morning, and then someone was like, oh, what's that about? Oh, it's just a club where we go out riding, but we also, there's one of our friends spoke about his mental health struggles. So yeah, it's just a great environment. We've created a cycling environment which is open to talking about mental health as well.